Good evening all, and welcome to the June edition of the Scrutiny Committee. I'd like to remind the members that we are being recorded and it will be on YouTube and uploaded in due course. But first of all, I'd like to thank very much Councillor Samuel Smith for his excellent job that he did last year in chairing this committee. I'd like to say I learnt a lot from him, and I hope I will continue in the vein that he's left off. I've certainly served an apprenticeship up to him, so thank you very much, Councillor Smith. The first item on the agenda for this evening really is apologies for absence. I have apologies from Helen Hadley, who will be late to us, but who is expected to grace us with her presence in due course, public transport permitting. Do I have any other apologies at this stage? No? Okay, moving on. The second item on the agenda is the minutes from the previous meeting, which is on pages 5 to 12. I take it you've had a good look at those meetings. Do I have a mover for those meetings? I do. Councillor Couchman. Do I... A jingly mover? do I have a seconder for those meetings, those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Summers. That's much appreciated. Can we vote for its acceptance overall? No. I know, you weren't catching me out. Are those against? And those abstaining? Thank you very much, Councillor Kingston. Thank you. So the third item on the agenda is the appointment of a vice chair. I would ask, are there any nominations for a vice chair? This being the first meeting of this new year. Thank you, Councillor Cashman.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Coates.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? In which case, I will ask for a seconder. Okay, can we take the vote on that? You are duly elected Vice Chair. Congratulations, Councillor Coates. That's all right. Don't thank me. Item 4, are there any declarations of interest relevant to the items being discussed tonight, please? I shall take that silence as being in the negative. Thank you very much. Chair's update. I have nothing much to say on the Chair's update, other than I am looking I'm looking forward to not tripping over my words. I'm looking forward to being a little bit calmer, and I'm looking forward to working with you all over the coming year. I think that there are some very important matters for us to attend to. I think this committee has got a lot of stuff to do, a lot of important things to do in making sure that we do the right things for the people of Tamworth. And beyond that, I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'm, as I said in my note to you prior to this, I seek your guidance. You're the people with a lot more experience than I have. I'm just here to read the notes that are given to me and look like I know what I'm doing. So thank you very much. Moving on to item 6, responses to reports responses to reports of the Corporate Scrutiny Committee. There is no update to share here. You'll be disappointed to hear, but it is a standing item. Item 7 is consideration of matters referred to the Corporate Scrutiny Committee from Cabinet or Council. Again, sorry to disappoint you. I currently have no matters to report to you. I now move on to the substantive item, which I know you're all excited about and can't wait to get into, which is the quarterly performance report for the fourth quarter of 24-25. I sort of looked at this as a sort of, perhaps I shouldn't prejudge the discussion, but I did think of it as a school report, as an end-of-year school report of how we did over the year. Maybe the committee will view it slightly differently. But I would start by welcoming the Executive Director for Organisation, the Assistant Director of Policy and Performance, and the Deputy Leader of the Council, who are here to help us out with that report. I will advise that Councillor Dean has given her apologies And we have, sorry, who's the stand-in? I'm confused now.
We've got two.
We've got two.
Two.
So talk about value for money. You don't got just, you haven't got one leader, you've actually got two. So sorry, I've even lost my train of thought here. You've got councillor, you've got them anyway, so there you go.
We have got the one final
So,
officer as well.
The matter that is brought before us this evening is that we are here to either endorse this report, hopefully we will, but also what I'd like to see is if there are matters which are concerning you, that we can take those, or I will take those on your behalf, back to Cabinet and see if we can make some improvements in that direction. So, I talked enough. You've probably sick of me so far. I will hand over. Who am I handing over to?
I think Nathan's going to...
Nova? I'm handing over to Councillor Orkney. Orkney. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, Andy, and hi everyone, nice to be here. I'm just going to read out the intro to this report. So this report provides the Corporate Scrutiny Committee with an update on the Council's position in relation to progress with strategic corporate plan projects and updates on the financial position, corporate risks, audit, information governance, compliments, comments, complaints and health and safety. This is within the fourth quarter of the 24-25 financial year, January to March 2025, with Cabinet to consider the report on the 26th of June, see Appendix 1. Also included within this report is Tamworth Borough Council's Achievements Report for 24-25, highlighting the Council's achievements aligned with the previous corporate plan's goals, reflecting our dedication to building a better Tamworth for all residents and visitors. Do I need to read out the recommendation? You already did.
Thank you. I think that duly opens the floor for comments. When I went through this report, I did take quite a bit of time because I think you all found it quite a substantive report. And I'm wondering if it might be sensible to structure our deliberations under the sections at which the report was delivered. So there are 7 sections. It might be a bit easier rather than hair around. I sense a little bit of... are you okay?
Yes.
Sorry, it's okay. I was just wondering if I was doing something wrong. So if we could deal with it section by section, I think that would be easier perhaps for me to keep track of it, because I'm quite keen to keep track of any questions that are coming our way, and for the people to respond to those. So looking at section 1, quarter 4 highlights, has anybody got any comments or issues they want to raise upon that part of the report? In which case I'll add one if that's okay. I noticed under page 19 there was a reference to an improvement in the call handling rate. Is anybody able to tell me how that's measured and how those figures presented compared to similar organisations? Because I don't know what it means.
Yeah, we do have a call handling system that gives us the statistics. I don't know how I think they've definitely improved from last year, but I can get you more details in terms of those numbers just to confirm that. But we do, it is an automated system that provides the head of service with statistics. So, which also allows Nick to assign resources, so she knows when it's busy periods. For example, if letters go out, that will create a surge of demand, so she's able to resource the lines or the digital access channels accordingly.
Thanks very much for that explanation. Again, do we compare those to similar organisations, i.e. other councils? Do we know how good we are against anybody else?
Yes, I think we do benchmark, and I will get you that data. Thank you, Chair.
Much. Can I move on to section 2? Is that okay? Yep, great. Section 2 is the strategic projects summary. I noticed I was quite keen to write stuff on this myself, and then I noticed there was a more detailed explanation further on in the report. So, but does anybody want any immediate comments on section 2? Thank you. Councillor Couchman.
Thank you, Chair. Future High Street Fund. I'm very conscious, and I know it's going to come later, but I'm very conscious that we are really falling behind in this. I know it says that planning isn't, action's not on track, but not, but in control. But it's getting a bit of a joke, really. You know, we've still have got over here. This was supposed to be ready the end of May. It isn't, and you can't blame the weather, because the weather was absolutely wonderful. I was also looking at the St Edith's Square, and I'm a bit concerned about the size of those planters that are there, because I think they're a trip hazard. I think they're very difficult to see, especially if your eyesight's not brilliant, because unless you're going to have great big bushes coming out all over, and you're not going to get that straight away. You're not, you know, they are, and for people who are visually impaired, they're not. It's not good. And considering we're supposed to have everything on one level, I'm not. I don't think it's good enough, really. So anyway, I'm just putting it out there, and I'd like some answers as to why.
It looks like Councillor Oakley is desperate to fulfil your need.
I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say in here, because it's a recorded meeting, because we've made decisions very recently on the board.
Is this being recorded?
That's what I mean. So, but to say that some of the issues you've brought up have been recently discussed by the board, that's why I smiled, because it's something that I've also picked up on. And in terms of the working towards the deadlines, many of the deadlines are still on track to meet where they're supposed to be. Some of them are not, for reasons that are, some of them inside of our control and some of them outside of our control. So, for example, as you know, with the Castle Gateway, which is the bridge, that is right way over. Yeah, that way. The nationwide delays have meant that that project had some delays. And then with the square, I think there's been some publicly available, publicly obvious things that have happened with the square that have meant there's been a slight delay, but they are on track to deliver almost on time. So lots of projects are starting to wrap up soon. St Edith's Square is going to be open, and the market's going to be trading on it next Tuesday, and we have an opening event, which I believe you're all invited to, a week on Saturday. And middle entry is on track, due to be completed end of June. At the moment that the paving works are ongoing, and everything that, so yeah, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say.
So, please.
Some of the delays have been due to issues that could only be relevant when people get on site. So particularly, you know, those old buildings over there, you know, they don't really know what they're going to find until they get on site and start basically taking it down. So, for instance, there's been a I don't know, a bar or something that's been, they didn't really know how it was fixed in, so it was fixed into the adjoining wall of one of the, you know, the Market Street properties. So until they get on site, they wouldn't have been able to understand what that was. So, but they have been, you know, working pretty much to timescale really. There have been a few slippages, but nothing of greater than you would expect, given the fact that they can't get on, you know, until they start physically taking the stuff down. They can't really know if there's asbestos there, etc., etc.
I'll give you some assurance, Councillor Couchman.
Yes. Do we have a date when the bridge is likely to be open?
Me, sorry.
At the moment, we're looking for middle to the end of August for completion date for Castle Gateway.
Okay, and is there any further questions on item 2? Thank you, Councillor Adams.
I don't reading through it and Gumgate development. I don't want to how we got any rough timetable when it's going to start or any timetable at all for it.
Anybody able to give some feedback onto the Gungate development? No?
It's something that people are looking at, and there's some major decisions to be made before we can know the timeframes. So I think that's one that we'd have to get a proper answer back to you on.
Thanks very much. I think looking at the Future High Street Fund, and thank you for bringing it up, Councillor Catchman. You stole my thunder a little bit there, but I just wondered, and it's not something to answer now, but it's been a major piece of work that was started under the previous council and has been carried forward by this council. It has been a big enterprise, a big challenge. It's really important as an organisation we learn from it, and I feel there's a piece of work that needs to be done to understand what those lessons are and how we can apply them to any future projects going forward, even of a similar basis. But we must be a learning organisation so that these things don't happen again, and we can benefit from them. I'd add my question, and I'm not sure who's best to answer this one, but I'm sure it will receive some traction with the rest of the committee. Is that there is the asset management strategy. Despite looking at page 21 and Appendix 1, I'm still not very sure what the key delivery dates have been identified, i.e. what's happening in the near future that this committee can look forward to looking at and receiving. I also wondered, it talked in terms of so it's a bit of a complex question, I guess, is that on page 51, it talked about an underspend. I wondered if that was linked somehow to the asset management database and this whole thing. It just doesn't. It's something that was identified as being very important, and I just want some assurance in myself that it's moving forward the right sort of way. Queuing up to answer that one, please. Oh.
Just I can give a little bit of feedback on the asset management plans. There was a meeting of the Asset Strategy Steering Group earlier this week where Paul did updates to officers. Work is progressing on those plans, so we've got draft plans for quite a number of those assets which are currently out for review. Officers have fed back to Paul, and he'll be continuing to work on those and update them. I would imagine then they'll probably be coming to corporate scrutiny for review at a later date, but I don't know the exact timescales, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think where I am with it is that the Tamworth Borough Council owns a number of assets, probably hundreds, possibly thousands. I've no idea. I'm not entirely sure what we're trying to achieve. In my mind, it was to understand the quantum of ongoing obligations such as maintenance or any upgrades required, I don't know, through, for example, legislative requirement, that sort of thing, costs, whatever. What's our plan in terms of having all of that data in place and seeing the benefit from it? Because we have to do something for a benefit. There must be a benefit coming out of this strategy. When are we going to start seeing that benefit? Does anybody answer that one?
Yeah, so and I know they do seem to be taking a little while, the asset plans. It's because, as you say, we do have a lot of assets as a council, and there has been consultant procured to help us with that work, which has taken a little while to get the right help in, which is one of the reasons. The other reason is that up until very recently, we didn't have any idea of we didn't have a catalogue of all of our assets and their value and the work that needed to be done. So the first step is to collate all of that information and to put it in front of us as members to understand where we're at before we make strategic decisions on what to do next. So the result of it will depend very much on our position, which we will find out imminently, I would say.
Thanks. Moving on to probably the bit that we're all waiting for, I'm hoping, item 3, which is finance. Who would like to open the bidding on a question under finance? No? Section 3, finance? Go on, please, Councillor Code.
Yeah, when I see on there on page 51, I'm pretty sure I've been on corporate scrutiny for, this is my 3rd year now. Public open spaces, section 106, delays identified projects due to staffing shortages. I'm pretty sure that's been on there for 3 years. Do we know if we're going to have any of these projects or these staffing shortages filled? Because I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that one before. So just wondering if there's any updates on that.
Of the report. Yeah, and 51 of the pack.
I think whilst you're looking there, I think you're coming to a point that I was at. We're looking at the capital costs. There seems to be a lot of things that weren't spent. I think that's, excuse me, forgive me. I think that's probably where you were coming from. And I looked at the itemised areas such as playgrounds, wooded areas, that sort of thing, that clearly which identified underspends. Is that where you're coming at, Councillor Coates?
I'm just wondering, like I said, you know, what this money to spend on open spaces, and I'm pretty sure we've never spent it because, well, it says we've got someone in place now, in post. But I was just wondering, you know, if we've got a backlog of money that we can actually invest in the open spaces, and if what projects we've got looking at, you know, since we've got someone in place now.
I do apologise, I haven't got the detail on that. As far as I'm aware, we are now fully staffed in that particular area, so I will come back to you on it, if that's okay, Chair. Because I think Councillor Coates is absolutely right. I think that comment, it has meant a delay, and I know they are reprofiling that work, because the overview that we've been giving capital spends is if it's not being spent, then it goes back to the pot. And Jo and her team are pushing us hard on that, so that if we haven't got the reprofiling, then there's obviously no clear urgent need for that project. But what is the impact? Because it's all very well to say, have the money back, but what have we said that was going to happen? So I haven't got the finite detail on that, but I will get that and provide that to you, as an email circular, if that will help.
Councillor Cashman.
Following on from that, Chair, the slide above it where it says Wigginton Park about chasing volunteers. Councillor Pallett and I were put on the Friends of Wigginton Park last year. We've never met, we don't know who they are or what we're supposed to do. So it would be lovely, that's why I've said it, Councillor Kingston, because I know you would know. But it would be nice to sort of like take part, because I use that park very regularly, well, daily.
Kingston.
Yeah, just to put some context into that, the Friends of Wigginton Park group, which I used to chair, has been handed over to one of my colleagues at Rawlett School, because it was Rawlett School back in 2009 that led the formation of it. We have since had, because the emails have come to me, 2 or 3 different leads for what used to be the Wild About Tamworth project, which has been renamed different times, rebranded and what have you. And it is true to say that when my colleague at work has gone back to the new leader of the, whatever you call it now, Wild About Tamworth group, they've now noted that they are moving and there is a new member of staff in post. I think that's happened about 3 times in the past 18 months. So the Wigginton Park management plan as is ready to go, but we need that link between the volunteer group and the council, otherwise the volunteer group is virtually redundant. And I'm not blaming anybody for that. We used to have an excellent relationship with the estates team, the grounds team, and that relationship, as I see it, is still there and ready to go. We just need that link between the two to be re-established. But because of the change in people and this is one thing that annoys me a little bit, and I'll say it openly, that there is an expectation that the volunteers, and that's what they are, volunteers, will actually do the work. And my argument has been is that we are a slightly different to the likes of Hodge Lane and the other reserves, like LNRs, local nature reserves, is that we're not a local nature reserve, we're a park. And we can do things like planting bulbs and litter picking and the odd tree planting event, but what we can't do is the heavy lifting. And the expectation is that we would now start to do heavy lifting. And I've gone back, and this was a few years ago, and said, no, that's not the case. So we need that stability of the person leading the project from, as I said, what the old Wild About Tamworth project, before I'm prepared to say to my colleague at work, get going. So that's the position we're at, Councillor Couchman.
Can I just come back?
Yep, please do.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I've also had representation from Diane Wells from the Hodge Lane Nature Reserve, and she's looking for the council to support them because the volunteers are getting older and they can't do the heavy lifting, and so it's a case, I think, where now you've got somebody in post to actually meet with all the groups and work out a proper plan for everybody. So I look forward to seeing that come to the nature recovery point at the ISAG scrutiny, so we can add that to our list. Thank you.
Any further points? Please, Councillor Price.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is for Annie. Last time we looked at the quarterly performance report, we discussed the assembly rooms quite considerably. Just looking at the figures that are posted in here, so we're overspent on wages, we're under budget on bar sales, ticket sales look good, but I would expect the bar sales to match that. And I can see just in the comments that we're waiting for reviews. I suppose a couple of questions. When are the reviews going to be complete and available to look at and digest? What are we doing with regards to ensuring that the assembly rooms is self-sufficient, and what sort of timeline are we looking at for that? My concern is there's a comment here, continued analysis of markup on stock, and I would think, as somebody that's worked in the industry for many years, if our ticket sales are up, that means we've got more people coming through the door than we expected, yet our bar sales aren't anywhere near where we expected them to be. So either we're pricing ourselves out of people spending when they're in the building, or the offer that we're giving them isn't good enough for what they expect. So I'm really interested to see the review on that, and what the plan is to get the bar sales to sort of match, but also with regards to the wages being overspent as well. Again, how is that wage overspend justified if the bar sales are down? Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes, the review, I remember the discussion from last time, the review was underway. So the review has now been approved by Appointments and Staffing Committee on the 4th of June. So the staff are in consultation at the moment. So there is a timeline as per HR policies around that. So they're in the 30-day consultation period as we speak. In the background, with the support of the accountants, the team have done zero-based budgeting to work their way up, to build the budgets back up to what they actually need. So that's the second aspect. Third aspect is, as part of the review, and I think you identified it last time, when that service was created, it was never created to be commercial. I think they were actually your words, and actually that was absolutely true, and we've picked that up in the report and said that the new model that they will work to achieving a reduction on the cost neutral will be a while, because we've still got staffing costs associated with local government that are not, as you're aware. We have policies and HR procedures that are not consistent with our private organisation of that stand would look. You know, we've got significant costs associated with pensions, etc. The costs for casuals is always more expensive than we would anticipate. So the team, as part of that review, costs around staffing, casual costs have been reduced. The programming around arts and events will change. The outdoor programme will change, and there'll be more details on that shortly. So that will change, which will have significant reduction for this authority in terms of costs. So we'll look at a new operating model. For example, see if other organisations that are already created with a grant from ourselves, could they deliver the same, but I'm going to say cheaper. I'm not saying better, I'm going to say cheaper. So that the review is underway. Even things like negotiations with artist contracts are being changed to help with that. The programming, instead of having for example, a show on a Friday and a Saturday, it's nothing in on a Sunday or quiet on a Monday, they will now be condensed, so it will be 5 days back to back, and possibly we may well shut for 2 days. Also, the catering provision has changed. We've managed to recruit a lady that is actually bringing about change, and the sales have gone up there, so revenue's gone up straight away. So all of these things, and I think part of the discussion we had last time, that you asked for 6 months after implementation, I think the then chair asked for it to come back to say how we were doing. It's obviously very high profile with cabinet and with the exec. You know, every month we have to have a chat about how we're doing, how's it going, but we're in consultation with the staff.
If I may, Chair. Yeah, thanks for the update, Annie. I think we had quite a lengthy discussion about it last time, and as you said, my words were, that it was never meant to be self-sufficient, and it was never meant to make money, but it should be able to support itself to some extent. So it's good to hear that them costs are coming down, and if not yet cost neutral, that's still where we're aiming for. And I think one of the key things that I just picked up from what you were saying as well is people who aren't tied by local government could make that profitable, but from my point of view, it's not an asset that I think we should lose. I think it's really important that we keep that within the council, but if there is a model that we can look at that means the council keeps the control, but it does become a profitable business, then I think that's something that we should definitely be looking at. I think it's really key that we keep hold of our assets, but they're either cost neutral or they are making money, and if that means that we have to get creative and we have to find ways that we can do that, then I think that's great. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the reviews and getting the updates on it. It's good to hear that it's going in the right direction. So thank you for that.
I know Councillor Kingston is waiting, and I thank him for his patience, but can I just allow, if I may, just one further comeback? Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I've just come in my head and gone straight out. We've had as an officer, we've had a very clear steer from Cabinet that this asset will be, is protected, but as officers, we've got to do more to do exactly what you've just said, and it's been made very clear to us. So we are hoping that our restructure and any new operating model does deliver that to reduce the cost to the council, but it is also hindered by the costs, central support service costs, such as myself, such as the three colleagues here and everybody else. No, but it's sorry, I'm sorry, I'm touching you, sorry. Oh God, that's on camera as well. But you know, sorry, it is. You know, before they start, I forgot what the number is. Joe will probably tell me. Before they even open the doors, which is 400,000. There aren't many places that can make 400,000 before they've opened the doors. So that is. But I take everything that you say. And one thing, Councillor Price, I didn't do. You offered to give us any support, and I didn't take you up on it. I'm sorry. You did. You said. I think the point was you have. Yeah. No, you did say in the meeting. You did say. I think Councillor Smith pointed it out. But you know, so I apologise for that, and apologise for slapping you, Chair. Thank you. Very unprofessional.
Moving on, Councillor Kingston.
Thank you. Following on from Ben's comment about the bar, having been there on opening night, having spent 2 weeks sat at it when appearing in pantomime, and having attended shows there and some of the dinners that have taken place there, I don't think, and don't take this the wrong way, the bar is fit for purpose, physically. One of the biggest frustrations that I hear from people is the lack of draft beer, and also the length of time it takes to get served. You only have 15 minutes for your interval. I think a quicker method of service would increase the bar sales, and particularly when you've got those dinner functions and other functions taking place, if you have draft beer, then people will stay and drink at the assembly rooms and spend, rather than move on to one of the nearby pubs to spend their money. And we can keep the money in the assembly rooms, and this sounds awful, rather than seeing it go to other places in the town centre. But we want them to spend in the town centre as well, but we also want them to spend at the assembly room. So when you're doing your review, my suggestion would be, let's see some draft beer. You've got the storeroom just behind the bar, so it wouldn't be a problem to put the lines in. You can easily...
You're opening a can of worms there. You need...
I know.
You need pythons, you know.
But it's something that would...
an even bigger investment, but I do agree, if I may. I mean, the offer is key, but there are things that you can do to help with the interval congestions and things like that. There's a lot of places that you go to, bigger venues that take orders ready for intervals, etc. I don't know if we actually do that or not. We do. Yeah, there we go. Happy days. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there is things that can be done, but yeah.
But I'm also talking about the actual, you know, the beer that's... I don't seem to be focused on beer, but you know, it is a bit of a favourite topic of mine. If you look at what's actually sold behind the bar, if you're holding a function there, you want something a bit more customer friendly. You know, the actual product could be improved. And I'll leave it there. Just some thoughts to take away anyway.
At last, a subject I have some expertise on. Thank you very much for that. I would also thank everybody, because I think we all acknowledge that the assembly rooms is really important. And I do recognise the attention that it's getting, which it needs, and thank you to everybody whose efforts are in moving it in the right direction. Thank you for that. Can I change the subject slightly, because it's more of an education for me? So if I look at pages 35 and 36, it talks about the general fund, and it talks about some gains that have been made beyond budget, and there's a couple of items which I just didn't understand. One was the forecast return levy, 698k, and the bad debt provision of 460k. I'm not quite sure how we ended up being a winner under those, but if somebody could give me a background to that would be great.
I can, if I may.
Please, thank you.
Okay, so the returned levy, so this is to do with our business rates pool. with regards to the NNDR that we collect, so we collect it on behalf of the government ourselves and our preceptors. We're also part of a pool with other Staffordshire authorities. So we pay money into the pool, and then at the end of the year we potentially can get some back out if we've collected more than was budgeted at the start of the year. So that's what that return levy is. The 460k was a budget provision that was set aside with regard to the recent lease, which was not making a return for us, if you remember, was subject to a number of cabinet reports. So to offset those that income stream that we weren't potentially going to get, we set aside that budget provision. So that's offset some of that shortfall.
That's great. Thank you very much. Questions? Are there any further questions on item 3 at the moment?
Does that include page 60? Or will that next item?
I'm not sure where item 4 comes into the corporate risk register, somewhere around. I'm not sure which page it comes into. I've got a few more, if that's okay, and when we can work out which page we're on to. If I may, I'd like to. I'm sorry, I missed my opportunity earlier on when Councillor Coates raised his point, but I'd like to raise it again, if that's okay, because I've got the numbers here on page 52. Again, there's a whole list of things there which appear to me, if I'm reading these figures right, to have been underspent and therefore been reprofiled, is the phrase, into next year, i.e. we're pushing the money into next year, which is, as we've talked about, local nature reserves, Amington refurbishment of play areas, balancing ponds, the boardwalk, Snowdown footbridge. These are all things that we haven't done, it would seem. And I also, when I read the notes, again, I've picked up some references of 31, 30 pages. These are page numbers, 31, 32 and 51. There seems to be a recurring theme of recruitment. Is there a recruitment issue? Is that something that needs to be on the corporate risk register? Is it preventing us from delivering what we should be delivering? That's a question. I don't know who wants to take that one. Thank you.
Some of those projects that you talked about are now underway. We were waiting for final costs, for example, the footpath. That's underway. What was some of the others? Sorry.
Well, I've just got some local nature reserves. I've got
yes.
the Amington Community Woodland.
Yep. Okay, I'm not sure where we are with that. And the balancing ponds. The balancing ponds, I can tell you about that one. What we have to do, we have to build up a reserve every year for the clearing of balancing ponds, because the cost of them are so expensive. And many years ago, as those ponds were created, we didn't have a fund to clean them. So when the request came in to clear them, which there is a schedule, there was no money available. So we agreed to start to set up a reserve, and so money gets put into that, and we only call on it when it's required. So that's why that will often be underspent, because I'm going to throw a number in. It's like over 100,000 for one pond to be cleaned, and depending what's in it and how it, then that stuff, silt and everything, where that has to be transported to safely, disposed of safely, those costs are going through the roof, as we're aware of. Any disposal of waste is going through the roof. In terms of recruitment, we were having problems last year in terms of some professional roles. We aren't seeing those problems now. We are considering what the impact of LGR and devolution might have on the authority in the staff in terms of retention. So that is a work strand that the Chief Exec is leading on, people in workforce under the Southern Staff's bid. So we will be bringing more information on that as we progress. But we aren't seeing any issues for recruitment. No.
Thank you very much for that. I now understand that with that example of the balancing ponds, it's a way of creating provision for when you need it to happen. I didn't appreciate that, so that's good to hear. Thank you very much for that. I think I would say my only other, I have a number of other comments, but they are comments related to how the report is set out and maybe how it's readable, etc. I will just say that it's something I've undertaken to go away to go and talk to Amadip here and see what we can do. But I would just say at this point in time, if any of the committee have got any ideas of things, how this could be represented, the information or information that would help or information that doesn't help, please just drop me a line. I'd be more than happy to take on board, again, your expertise in how we could make this a more readable event, shall we say. One of my examples was on page 61. There's a graph there which shows income management arrears monitoring. It's great. It shows that we are within the bounds of a trend, but it's very, very difficult to read in terms of all the various colours and stuff in there. And I'm not sure about the value of that, but that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, if we finished with section 3, there is more questions on section 3. Please, Councillor Couchman.
Total housing rent arrears were 458k, same as the previous year. Why are we not sort of getting more money back in, and the arrears are going up? So
You have a page reference for that,
yeah,
for me anyway.
Page 60.
60, thank you.
It's just above your graph. It was just the fact that, you know, if we've got £458,000 in rent arrears, why haven't we eaten into that over this year and got it down?
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's quite a substantial amount of money.
Is anybody able to help with an answer on that one at the moment? No, we're going to take that one away. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we now move on to the next section, which I believe is the corporate risk register? I know, fascinating as it might be. Anybody wish to raise any points about the corporate risk register? No? I'll kick off because I've got two, if I might. I'm just noting that risk number 4.2, which is called failure to meet the regulator social housing consumer needs, has changed since we last reviewed it, because I compared it. So it's now high risk. Can anybody update me with the latest mitigation actions against that? Because I was far from clear from reading that description. Anybody help me out with that?
Okay, thank you. So in terms of that, we brought this risk report to Audit and Governance just last night. So that risk score has gone up, and the reason for that is due to resources and the availability of staffing resources with regard to that. But there was a proposal going to vacancy panel this year to look to address that going forward.
The other thing is I've got a proposal, and I open this to the committee to see what their thoughts are. This corporate risk register should focus ourselves, I believe, on the things which are going to knock us sideways as a council, things which are going to stop us doing our job. At the moment, unless I've missed it, which is not beyond the bounds of possibility, I can't see a risk reflecting the possible impact of the local government reorganisation. Thank you, Councillor Kingston.
Absolutely agree with you. I think that ought to be fed into as it's the biggest piece of work we face. I think it's important to note that this is the quarter where it was introduced, so I dare say it will appear on the next quarterly report, but totally agree. We need to be considering the impact of that in everything that we do moving forwards.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, not only do we have organisational risk, staffing risk, etc., we're looking at Southern Staffordshire-wide risks as well. So we've already updated the next quarter's document in readiness, and there will be project-based risks as the project develops. So it's absolutely huge. Absolutely agree. Thank you.
Are there? I just wondered. So I get confirmation. It will appear, and I don't need to. Okay, fine. Are there any specific concerns at the moment this committee would like to see under that risk register, so that we can help the process along in the direction we think it should do? Sorry, Councillor Kingston.
Yeah, just on that, if you're going to, for me, obviously the biggest impact is going to be on staffing, and in the immediate, if we lose personnel as a result of the incoming local government reorganisation, how are we, and I know you can't answer this question, but can we have it as a risk as to how we're going to continue to deliver our core services, and also the bits that we may have to allow to drop because of lack of staff? Because I appreciate that now that we know this is coming, then those staff that might be considering moving on are more likely to do so. Those that, you know, recruitment is going to be an issue as well as staff move on. So I think we need to be aware of those risks so that we can comment, observe and look at that. So for me, one of the key ones has got to be staffing and the impact on services.
Yeah, do you want to follow?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, one of the work strands is people and workforce. That's in the Southern Staffordshire project. That is separate to how we do business now, because you're absolutely right, Councillor Kingston. It's been made very clear that no matter what, we deliver services first. LGR can carry on, and anything else is going on, those services must be delivered as a priority. And what we need to do, it will be retention, and every council was every council that's affected is having the same discussion. And I went to a meeting last week, West Midlands Employers, and they're going to offer us further support because it's going to be for all of us. So does that mean if it's happening to a range of authorities, people will sit because they're part of the future, they're part of this evolution of local government? So how do we sell that? How do we keep them? And we're going to be potentially part of a much bigger authority, so there will be more opportunities. So do you sit and wait? Will there be golden handcuffs, etc, etc, etc? So that discussion is well underway, and we haven't got all the mitigations for those risks, but at a high level we have got those, along with the other organisational risks like additional resources to do the work. At the minute it mainly falls on us to do it as part of the day job, but as we know what the what is, we will get more resources, so you will be seeing that in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, that's encouraging to hear. Thank you from my point of view anyway, so thank you very much for that. I think now we'll move on, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were no comments whatsoever, but let's not preempt that. Item or section 5 of the report is about the audit plan update. Did anybody want to say anything about the audit plan? No. I read it, I looked at it, it looked reasonable. I will acknowledge that great strides were made in auditing last year, as I know Councillor Adams is only too familiar with. And there was some good work done there by the council, so that's great. And I have no doubt that the same timetable is available, is achievable, and those outputs can be done. So moving on then, we've got item 6, which is information governance reports. An interesting set of information there. I'll kick off if you like, because on page 108 it refers to stage 1 and stage 2 complaints. I didn't actually know what that was, so I'm just seeking some education, please, if somebody can help me. Yeah, thank you.
Customers are allowed 2 stages in terms of complaints, comments or compliments. So the first stage is dealt with by the service at a very operational level, and then the second stage allows the customer to come back and say, that's not good enough, or I'm not happy, and then the complaint gets ratcheted up, if you like, in the process. And what the Ombudsman likes to see the customer has followed internal sort of the council's processes before they go to them. Not in all instances, but they do like to see that, with the exception of the housing regulator ombudsman who just says, yeah, you can send them in. But the idea is that we try and give it some more time, some more independence of the service. So so that's what they are. Stage one. Some customers will happy, some go, no, I'm still not happy. Please take it up the ladder to the next level of management. Yeah.
I also want to make any comments on the information governance reports at this point. My only other comment, which I had on there, is page 112. I just want to say it's really good to see a positive improvement in the service that was noted in there, because at the end of the day, we're here to deliver for the people. They're our customers. So I don't like the word customer really, but the people of Tamworth, we know what we're talking about anyway, regardless of the word. So that's really, really good. I think all that's left in that report is item 7, which is health and safety. And the only question I had about that, or comment really, is on page 118. There were categories. So how were the categories under causes decided? Because they seem to be different from different lists. The difference between the employee measure and the public measure. Do anyone help me? Oh, they're looking at it. Might be one to take away. I was just curious as to why are we measuring those things and why are they different from the list, sort of thing. That was all. Okay, doesn't matter. Fine. Anybody else want to come in on health and safety? No? Great. Right, I've only got one more comment on my list on the whole report, which is page 147, which is the achievements report. I think I'll probably know the answer to it, but there's some really good stuff in there, I think. My question is that going to be publicised through the usual communication channels on the web page or whatever it is? Because I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we just had a communications peer challenge who recognised the need to shout more and make, I think the words were more humanistic stories, get to publicise them. So, why do Street Scene do some of their jobs and, a day in the life of. So, they do get published, yes, absolutely. And they are usually a summary of stories that have already happened, but just in summary form for the purpose of the report, which obviously Amadip has reviewed for, as you said, Chair, for next quarter. So, but I'll let Amadip comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. I mean, again, I find that in my own experiences that when you and particularly when you look at comments on, dare I say, social media, etc., most of them are born out of ignorance, that they don't actually know what's going on or what we are doing, and that seems to me to be a failure in our ability to communicate with them, our residents, etc. So that's why I thought it'd be useful. And you're quite right, somebody else has picked up on that, which is really good to see that we're moving in that direction. So thank you very much. So I think we've got to the end of tonight's substantive item, unless anybody else would like to add any more. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder look at that, we're fighting for it. I'm going to take Councillor Kingston as a mover, and I'm going to take Councillor Adams as a seconder of that then, in the words, endorse the contents of the report for consideration by Cabinet. Can we now have a vote on that, please? Yeah, great, that's unanimous. Thank you very much for that. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for your help on that. Moving on to item 9, which is a working... Oh, I do apologise. I do apologise. Can I just thank you very much for your time, officers. I thought it was very constructive. I hope you can learn to put up with me a bit. I'm sorry I keep forgetting names, but thank you very much, and I really appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I've got to wait for them to go. No, carry on. Okay, fine. So working group updates. We don't have any working group updates at this point in the time. I will say to you that it is my intent, and I feel within this group there is definitely scope for working groups in order to help this committee better understand some of the aspects. If you have got any ideas for what you'd like or is suitable to go to before a working group, please again contact me. It's not for me to dictate, it's for you to tell me or for us to agree, shall we say. In terms of the forward plan, this is the cabinet forward plan. I don't propose to go through it. But I've changed my mind. It's on there, and I'm sure you can read it better than I can. But I do want to comment on something which is I'm more interested in, which is related to it, I guess. Or sorry, I'm not more interested in, but more familiar with, which is the corporate scrutiny committee work plan. As a meeting this week with the ELC to discuss priorities and how we fit some of those things in. My initial view were that there were some big ticket items that this group needs to look at, not least of which is the local government reorganisation, which has been already pointed out this evening. We are looking to put an additional meeting in the diary in August. I am correct there, aren't I?
Yeah,
August,
yeah.
because I think it's an item that requires particular consideration, proper consideration on its own. There are a lot of things trying to get into the early August meeting, and it was going to be a fruitless exercise to try and cram too much in, because we just wouldn't be doing it service. And I did bow to the considered wisdom of my betters in looking at that. I would say ahead of that meeting that I know that there are various cross-party discussions going on about about the reorganisation. But again, if you feel the need that something might help that discussion in terms of a working group, going back to working groups again, really happy to try and put something together that we can do that. I know that Councillor Kingston has got some very good suggestions close to his heart at this point in time. Very happy to help in any of those things. I think it's really important that we, as all of the members, contribute to this real important big ticket item. I will also say that in the discussions we had, I was rather keen to bring this item before us as quickly as possible, but there's a balance to be had between bringing it before it's mature enough to have anything substantive to look at, and then cramming it in at the time when we've got too many other things to do. So I think from memory, or even your email that you sent round, the next items that we're looking to at the beginning of August is the housing voids, I believe. Housing voiding, which is again something which came before this committee last quarter, and we wanted an update on that because quite honestly, in my view, the turnaround time of housing is not great and is not getting any better. And I feel we need to understand the root causes between that and try and make it better. I was talking while trying to recover from my memory what else we were doing. Perhaps I ought to have. Sorry, thank you very much. We've obviously got another big ticket item, which is the Q1 performance report and the Anchorside update on there, as well as the review of the scrutiny process, which I think most people have been involved in one shape or form. So we'll be looking forward to that. I think that's probably enough for the early August. But again, please, if you've got any comments about that, things you want to turn around, drop me a note. Let's see what we can do about it. That, for me, brings us to the end of tonight's proceedings. So again, I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone's attendance. Thanks for putting up with me. And I'll bring this meeting to a close at 19:04. Thank you very much, everyone.